Hi, my name's Kat and you're watching The Vintage Redhead, and today I've got some vintage fragrances. These are all from the 1940s and they're still available today. I'm going to be spraying some of them, telling you what I think of them, and hopefully giving you enough information so you know whether or not to try these fragrances yourself. So the first that I'll be trying out is this one, which is called Chantilly. And it's quite a lovely bottle. A lot of these are just really lovely bottles, so even if you just wanted to have them on your vanity table or somewhere else, then I think it's worth it. It's an amber fragrance for women, launched in 1941, and the top notes in this fragrance are lemon, bergamot, neroli, fruity notes, and the middle notes are spices, carnation, orange blossom, rose, ylang ylang, I'm never sure how to say that, and jasmine. Some of the base notes are sandalwood, benzoin, vanilla, oak moss, leather, tonka bean and musk. When I heard those notes I thought, these sound really, really yummy, so I was quite excited about this fragrance. Let it settle. So one thing that I've noticed from this fragrance is that it does smell a bit dated, but not unwearable. I'm already getting, it's strong, I've sprayed one spray and I'm already getting quite a lot of fragrance from it. The first initial thing that it reminds me of are certain candies or sweets from my youth. I want to say like jelly tots even. It's really sweet, and something that people rave about is the dry down. So basically if you leave this fragrance for a while, what happens after half an hour or an hour, people really, really love it when it gets to that stage. So maybe this is one that we can return to at the end of the video. But already I reckon I could wear this quite happily in 2022 without feeling like a bit of a granny. And nothing against grannies, but a lot of these fragrances will smell of a certain time and are associated with a certain generation, let's say. So if you're watching this now, maybe some of these fragrances you remember from your youth, but for a lot of us, these fragrances feel like they belong to another time. That's partly why I like them. But anyway, Chantilly definitely gets a thumbs up from me, and it's also only about £25 or maybe $30 or so for 100 mils. So all of that for 100 mils, I think it's really worth checking out. So now we're going to move ahead a bit in time to 1944, and this fragrance is called Bandit by Robert Piguet. I think that's how you say it. So this came out in 1944. I've only got a little sample of this one. It's quite pricey. This one, I think basically every other fragrance I have retail for around £100–120 per 100 mils. It's not terrible, but they're definitely on the pricier range, and I wasn't ready to spend that on Bandit just yet, but I think I will be, because this is a really unique fragrance. So before I spray it, I'll just let you know some of the notes. Those are aldehydes, and that's something that we'll see a lot in these 1940s fragrances. Galbanum, artemisia, bergamot, neroli, gardenia, ylang ylang and orange. Middle notes are carnation, violet root, jasmine, rose, tuberose. Base notes are oak moss, leather, civet, vetiver, patchouli, myrrh, musk, amber and coconut. Again, it's a real mixture there, and things that I was really looking forward to trying. An interesting bit of history about this fragrance. It was created by Germain Cellier for a man who was Robert Piguet, who owns the company, his lover. And that was created at the beginning of the 1940s, like I said, 1944. And you can think about this as, this isn't just for women. I would say that this is a unisex fragrance. Like I said, it was originally created for a man, so no harm in trying it. But apparently Marlene Dietrich wore this fragrance, and a lot of people are really big fans. I know that Dita Von Teese, well, I don't know her personally, but I know that in her book, one of her books, she recommends this fragrance. A really lovely review from the site fragrantica.com, which I really recommend checking out if you haven't. If you're into fragrances, you probably already know about it. One reviewer says, "Green leather and sheep at its best, old world but avant-garde, maybe too modern for our time. Punk, drag, BDSM, trashy, skanky, in your face, over the top, a slap with a leather glove or a kiss of the whip." So that's the kind of feeling you might get from Bandit, but let's just give this a go. And try to not put it too close to my Chantilly, which is so powerful. This definitely could be made in any time. I do think this is a timeless fragrance. Something that I remember reading from another reviewer is that it smells of things that you don't think should be put on skin. That these aren't the usual florals that you might get, and it's unusual. It definitely feels like an evening smell, something that you might wear on a romantic night out, and certainly in autumn or winter time. So that's kind of the vibes that I get from this. It's not overly sweet, so if you're not a big fan of the Chantilly sweetness, the almost cloying florals, then you'll probably get along with this really, really well. Definitely that sense of leather, but not a typical modern leather fragrance. It has an edge, let's say. It has a sexy kind of edge, and I can see why it's gone down in history as being such a well-known and well-loved fragrance. So really, really worth trying. If you can get even just a sample of that, I think to begin with, I would highly recommend that. It is still available. I think that it might be retailing for around £120 for 100 ml, so maybe about $150 or so. Next on our list, we have Femme Rochas by Rochas, or Rochas, I'm not sure how to say that. It's a chic, fruity fragrance for women, launched in 1944 as well. The top notes in this are plum, peach, cinnamon, apricot, Brazilian rosewood, bergamot, again, that's been in every fragrance so far, interesting, and lemon. Middle notes are cloves, carnation, ylang ylang, again, it's been in every fragrance so far, rosemary, rose, iris, jasmine, and base notes are oak moss, also a popular smell, leather, benzoin, amber, patchouli, musk, and vanilla. So similarly, really excited to try this one. I would say, and again, I only have a little sample of this one, I wasn't super sure if I would get the whole thing, but this is actually pretty affordable. I believe this one only retails for about £35 to £40 per 100 ml. One thing I'd say about this is that it does seem a little bit more dated than the Piguet's fragrance from the same year, but it still seems very, very wearable today. So you start getting those, the kind of smells that you might smell in church when growing up, or around older people when you're growing up. But, sorry, it doesn't have a spray, so I've kind of got this everywhere. It's very, very spicy, very, very warm, and at the same time, it has this real class to it. It smells very classy to me, kind of like a money smell, I would say. Old money, basically, that's what I get from this. Again, a big fan of it. It doesn't smell too dated, but like I said, a little bit more dated than the Bandit. Now let's get to a classic, which you've probably heard of before, and maybe you've tried the modern incarnation of this. This is Miss Dior by Christian Dior. This was actually first launched in 1947, and the line is, I suppose, still going very strong today, though the modern Miss Diors smell nothing like the original. I tried to get a vintage bottle of this. I think that the juice in this might have aged a little bit too much, so this probably isn't the most accurate version or take on Miss Dior. That said, it's going to be closer than some of the remakes of it now. You can still get hold of the original Miss Dior. It'll probably be kept behind the counter at the Dior counter. It won't be like front and centre anymore. And it retails for around about £100 per 100 ml. So some of the notes in this are aldehydes. That's definitely like number one, aldehydes, and I'll tell you a little bit more about those in a sec. Galbanum, clary sage, gardenia, bergamot, narcissus, iris, carnation, orris root, lily of the valley. That was also a popular smell in a lot of fragrances of this time. Jasmine, rose, neroli. Base notes include oak moss, leather, vetiver, patchouli, labdanum, sandalwood, and amber. Got a lot of ambers and oak mosses in the base notes with all of these fragrances. So this is a smell that is very, very distinct. And again, you've probably smelt this around maybe many years ago, but it's very, very, very green, very aldehyde-y. And what I mean by aldehydes, these are basically chemical compounds that provide a kind of soapy, waxy, lemony smell. And a kind of floral touch as well to perfume formulas. Chanel No. 5 was actually the first fragrance that used aldehydes, and they're a sort of a branch of chemicals, so it's not just one aldehyde, there are many kinds that you can get. I just find it really fascinating, but basically Coco Chanel's intention was to create a perfume that she said would, that she wanted to smell like a woman, not like a flower. And famously, she said, "Women do not want to smell like a bed of roses." Which is interesting because a lot of fragrances are still floral today, but aldehydes, the idea of putting these in the fragrance was to give it, I guess, a more realistic, humanistic quality to them. So I would recommend, if you ever can get a sample of this, or just ask somebody at the Dior counter to smell it, I think it will be worth it just for the history of it. And of course there are the modern day versions of Miss Dior, but this is a classic, so just worth trying if you like. I can't really get past the overly green. It just smells. This is probably the most dated smelling one out of the lot, if I'm honest, but it is a classic. Next up, we have this beautiful bottle by Nina Ricci. This is L'Air du Temps. Again, Kat's French accent ruining it all. This was launched in 1948, and the notes behind this, the top notes are carnation, aldehydes, rose, neroli, Brazilian rosewood, peach, bergamot. Middle notes are carnation, cloves, gardenia, jasmine, ylang ylang, rose, violet, orris root, rosemary, and orchid. And base notes include spices, iris, oak moss, musk, sandalwood, benzoin, amber, vetiver, and cedar. Okay, so this one sprays very nicely. This bottle alone, I'm tempted to just pour out the juice and put something else in it because it's such a beautiful bottle and it's got a really interesting history behind it. So while I just let that settle, I'll let you know about that. So basically, this was created by Nina Ricci's son, who, and this is following World War II. So remember, this is 1948. So people were in need of optimism, lightness, levity, happiness, joy. The war is over, and apparently a lot of fragrances at that time or before that time were very dense, heavy, super rich, kind of low vibe in a way, maybe too strict and formal, reflecting the war atmosphere. But this fragrance came out as a real breakthrough, and that dove on the top, that's a dove, and that's been part of the original bottle for a very long time, represents peace. So that's a really, really lovely, I think, story behind the fragrance. It's only £25 per 30 ml, which isn't bad. I guess if you wanted 100 mils, then you'd end up spending close to 80 quid. But generally speaking, it's not going to break the bank to get a 30 ml bottle of this. It is a happy smell. I mean, that's my first reaction when I smell this. It's super happy, super spring-like. You know, if you wanted to keep the Bandit for the autumn, winter evenings, this is definitely I'm going to the park and I'm celebrating something. Carnations, there's definitely a strong floral vibe to it, and I think carnations is what most people pick up in this. I also get a little bit of baby wipes, a little bit of that kind of fresh, powdery, soapy smell. It's a very clean smelling fragrance. It's vintage, but it's proud to be that. So if you were, wearing this today, yeah, it's not going to smell like a modern fragrance, but it's so lovely. It's hard not to like, and it's hard not to it's definitely one that will lift your mood, I would say. Now, last but not least, this is coming out at the end of the 40s, another fragrance by Robert Piguet, and this is Fracas, or Fracas. The top notes are peach, orange blossom, hyacinth, green leaves, mandarin orange, and bergamot. The middle notes are tuberose, jasmine, gardenia, osmanthus, narcissus, lily of the valley, carnation, white iris, violet root, coriander, rose geranium, and rose. The base notes are musk, sandalwood, amber, oak moss, vetiver, and cedar. This perfume actually won the Fifi Award Hall of Fame in 2006. I thought that's kind of interesting that, even over 60 years later, I had to do the math there, that was actually still winning awards. And this is a fragrance that has tickled the imagination of many a celebrity, from Madonna, Kim Kardashian, Martha Stewart, Carolina Herrera, Courtney Love, and many, many more. So let's try this out. Word doesn't smell. That's amazing. It's a really strange mixture of really sweet, gentle smelling, almost like fabric softener. I think it's tuberose that most people get from this. But there's also a sharpness to it. I think that's how I describe it. Definitely not overly sweet. There's a sharpness to it. It's more gentle than Bandit, less kind of in your face, vampy than Bandit. You could definitely wear this in the day, wear this in the spring, summer, but still has a timeless quality. This does not smell like that kind of, I'm going to say it again, it's that granny-like aldehyde-rich formula that you get maybe in Miss Dior or even Chantilly. It's a very, very, both of those Piguet fragrances are incredibly unique. I've never smelled anything quite like those before, and I can definitely see these growing on me and probably getting the full-size bottles for both of those. What's interesting as well is that it's piqued my curiosity. I haven't just smelt it and it's like, okay, I know what that fragrance is about. There's a mystery to it. It keeps changing and moving, and it's very captivating, is what I would say. So those are the fragrances that I've got. I'll just give you a run through. So we had Chantilly by Houbigant, Robert Piguet's Bandit, as well as Fracas. We had Femme Rochas by Rochas, Miss Dior by Christian Dior, and L'Air du Temps by Nina Ricci. It was super fun trying out all of these fragrances. I hope you learned a little bit about the fragrances of the 1940s and that you're interested in trying maybe one of these for yourself. Remember, you can always get samples of a lot of these, whether that's online or in a local department store. These are all relatively easy to get still today, and yeah, definitely worth a try if you're interested in vintage fragrances. Alright, thank you for watching. Please like this video if you've been enjoying this content, subscribe to this channel for more videos. I release one every week, and thank you so much for watching. Catch you next time.